Well, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the Men's Health Grand Rounds webinar. And today I'd like to introduce you to Louis Denbaum. Louis has been a friend for quite some time. He's the co-author with his wife Diane of the book Madly in Love Forever. Love that title. It's a guide to true and lasting love. And since 1994, he has been deeply involved in men's work and worked with a number of kind of the top men in the field. He's been trained by Justin Sterling, David Dida, and the Mankind Project. And he's the founder of the 2013 Men's Telesummit, which I had the pleasure of being on. So, Louis, welcome. I'd like to just initially ask you to tell us your perspective on what's important for us to know about men's health today and relationships based on your wide experience.
Thank you, Jed. And first of all, thank you for putting together this Men's Health Summit and inviting me to be a part of it. I'm deeply honored to be among the many illustrious speakers that you have lined up.
Thank you.
When I think of what's important for men, to me, if I have to distill it into a nutshell, it's connection.
Mm.
And I'd like to start off with the quote by Henry David Thoreau that most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with their song still in them.
Mm.
That quiet desperation that we experience as men comes from not feeling connected. When I look at connection, I look at it in three areas. I look at connection to our source or spirit. I look at connection to our inner life. And I look at our connection to our partners on the planet, men, women, and children.
Mm.
So now, when I'm not connected, Jed, then I feel lethargic, I feel alienation, I feel sometimes angry, I might feel belligerent, but I feel out of sorts.
Mm.
There is no simple solution. There is no panacea. And there's no one size fits all. But that said, I am optimistic for us as men because there's a plethora of tools that we have. There's a plethora of books, of videos, of summits, of teachers, of gurus that can help us. So I'd like to start with the connection to source. And by source, I do mean God, spirit, an internal field of energy, whatever it is to you as a man, that higher power, that being out there or inside, wherever it is for you. Dan Buettner, who authored the book, The Blue Zones, studied the communities in our world that have people who live to be over 100 years old. And you have one out by you, Jed, in California, Loma Linda. And what Dan Buettner found is that in these people who live to be over 100 years old, 99% of them believe in God. When I was 5 years old, I remember feeling that this was not a very kind world to live in. There was poverty. Not that I was living in poverty, but I saw poverty around. Discrimination, war, crime. And I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders as a 5-year-old. And at second and third grade, I started ingesting things to make me feel better. First cigarettes, then alcohol, then marijuana. I was looking for something to lift that weight off my shoulders, but at the expense of my health. At the age of 16, something wonderful happened. I discovered meditation. And I've been meditating ever since, 44 years of meditation.
That's great.
Now, what happened in meditation for me was I was able to go to a very quiet, calm place within, like an oasis, as a metaphor, where my thoughts quieted down, where my body felt relaxed, and the world melted away. And for 20 minutes, I was in this inner feeling of bliss, relaxation. Then when I came out of meditation, I spontaneously found myself smiling, and people were saying, "What are you smiling about?" And I'd say, "I don't know. I just feel good."
Mm.
And my migraine headaches went away forever, never to come back. So that I felt more energetic. I had a bounce in my step. So this was a phenomenal discovery for me, that I could go within and have all these benefits internally and externally. Now, I didn't know it or believe it then, but I do believe now that that quiet oasis place I go to when I meditate is source, is spirit. So I now have developed this practice of connecting with source or spirit every day as part of my life as a man. And it shows up in better relationships, better self-esteem, and just a happier me, which means a healthier me.
Mm-hmm.
I said before, Jed, that there's no one size fits all. And that applies to meditation also. There's no one meditation out there that I think is the best and you have to do it and I'm going to recommend it. I believe we find something that resonates with us. It could be meditation. It could be a yoga practice. It can be breath work, and I know that you work with heart coherence. Any of those methods will put us in a space where we have that connection, that inner connection. So my first recommendation for men is to find some kind of spiritual daily practice to give you that connection to source. So next is our connection to what I call the inner world that I have and you have as a man. And I did think at one point, Jed, that all I had to do was to meditate every day, that life would be bliss. I didn't have to do anything else. Well, all it took was going out into the work world, getting married, having kids, to disabuse me of that notion that all I had to do was meditate.
Yes.
Even with meditation, I started to feel disconnected. There was something inside that was not yet the way I wanted it to be. And then I stumbled upon the next major tool for my life development, and that was men's initiatory weekends and men's circles. In 1994, I attended the Sterling Men's Weekend. And in 1999, I attended the New Warrior Training Adventure offered by the Mankind Project. And those weekends were transformative, deeply transformative. And I unequivocally recommend either of those weekends to every man viewing this presentation. It will change your life. I feel very confident about that. What happened to me after attending a men's weekend like that and being in a men's circle? Well, the very first thing that happened is I got in touch with my emotions. I became more emotionally literate.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have that before. And it's no wonder we as men are deprived by our upbringing, by society, of access to our feelings. Don't cry. Just suck it up and get on with it. Grin and bear it. We're told as men to not feel. How wrong is that? Well, it took me going to a men's weekend to reclaim my emotional literacy. And I came alive. And notice I didn't say I became happy. I said I became alive. Why? Because part of reclaiming my emotional literacy was that I got in touch with repressed sadness. I got in touch with repressed anger. Those are not making me feel happy. They're making me feel what emotions are in me. Mm-hmm. And by feeling those emotions in me, I developed that muscle that allows me to feel anything. So now I'm more able to feel happiness because I developed the ability to feel sadness or anger. And that was a wonderful, wonderful benefit of the men's weekends, to get in touch with my emotions, to recognize what I was feeling and how that might impact my life. I can now come home and say to my wife, I'm really feeling angry right now. It's best that we don't sit and let me stew in that anger. I'll come back to you when it subsides, and then I can get in touch with that anger and let it subside and not take it out on her.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing that I developed through men's weekends is a sense of values, life purpose, and life vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's really important for us as men to really know what is valued by us and to live a value-driven life.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really connected to myself when I'm in touch with and adhering to my values. And when I don't adhere to my values, I feel bad. But that feeling bad is a blessing because it tells me, I'm not following these values. Let me get back in touch with them. Again, referring to Dan Buettner, when he studied these communities, Jed, and found, what happens or what these people living to be over 100 have in their life, one of the things he found was they had a life purpose. So it's really important for us as men to have our life purpose, which can change over time. Life purpose is what gets me out of bed in the morning. What am I excited about? What do I want to do? Why am I here? What's my gift? And also part of life purpose is, who do I want to give the gift to? Do I want to give it to men? Do I want to give it to women? Do I want to give it to couples? Do I want to give it to a particular ethnic group or to a particular religious group? Do I want to work with young people, old people? So we got to get clear as men about what it is that we have to offer, our gift, and who we want to give it to. Now, I distinguish that from life vision, which is also important. Life vision is, what do I want to see around me as I go about living my life purpose? Do I want to see mountains? Do I want to see the ocean? Do I want to see cornfields, which is what I see when I wake up in the morning? Do I want to see skyscrapers? That's what I used to see when I lived in New York City. Do I want a partner? Do I want kids? What do I want? And get really clear about that, because I can be living my life purpose but not having the vision around me that I want to feel really complete. So when I have my purpose and my vision both at the same time, I'm feeling really connected to who I am.
Yes.
The next thing that came out of men's weekends and men's work was the concept of choice. Everything in life is a choice. And when I recognize that and when others recognize that, we feel empowered. Even along the way. So I agreed to be on your men's health summit. I had a choice. I accepted. Now today we're actually having a conversation. I got out of bed knowing that it was the day to have this conversation. I still have a choice. I could say, hey, Jed, I decided not to do it. There's always a choice, and that's empowering to us as human beings, that we create our life experience. Now, it's not just that we can just do whatever we want, because once we make a choice, there are consequences. There's cause and there's effect. So let's say I'm a student. I can choose not to go to class today. That's great. That's empowering. I made a decision. However, there's a consequence, potentially. Possibly the teacher, the professor, is going to offer some knowledge today that will then be on the next exam, and because I chose not to show up, I did not get that knowledge, and I'm going to get a lower grade on the exam. So there's always cause and effect. But we need to recognize first that we are making choices. Choosing not to move ahead with your life purpose is a choice. When we make these choices and realize that, we get out of victimhood. And so many illnesses can come from that state of being a victim, feeding our mind with the fact that, I can't do anything about this, that helplessness. And then the next two concepts or tools that came from the men's weekends for me both come from Carl Jung. The first is that of the shadow. The shadow is what we hide, deny, and repress. And it could be good
Yes.
things and it could be bad things. But as we're growing up, we get socialized and people say, now, don't do that. Don't be like that. That's not a good thing. Don't make yourself seen. Stay in the background. You'll never accomplish that. The poet Robert Bly, one of the greatest people in our men's movement, wrote a book called, he talked about the little book of the human shadow. And in it, he has a metaphor that we're carrying around this sack on our back. We're holding this sack, and inside it, we put all of those things, all of our shadows, and they stay in this bag. But yet they're still affecting us because they're part of us. And what I've learned from men's work and sitting in men's circles is where I have shadows, good and bad. And when I illuminate them, when I shine the light on them, then they don't affect me the same way as if I just keep them in the bag. I might have a shadow that I'm not good enough. I was told by my dad or my teachers, you're not good enough. So I put that, it's uncomfortable to experience that, so I put it in the bag. But it's there, and let's say I'm on a team project. If I didn't illuminate that shadow, I might sit back and let all the others do the work because I'm not good enough. I might have opinions, and I don't pipe up and tell the people what my opinion is on a particular matter because I'm not good enough. But if I know that that shadow is there, then I say, that shadow is there and it's keeping me from piping up. It's keeping me from fully engaging with this project. And when that happens, I can then say, I don't have to live with that shadow. I'm going to pipe up. I'm going to fully engage with this group. So that's the value of learning the shadow. And by the way, it can show up as a shadow, something good. I might have this feeling like I'm better than everyone else. And that's a shadow too. And that might keep me from dominating in groups. And when I recognize, why am I not getting any cooperation? Well, because I'm dominating. I'm walking around with, I'm better than you. And that's a separator. Keeps me separate from the people on my team. So I illuminate that and I say, my I'm better than you shadow is operating now. Let me overcome that. Let me step through that and step down off my pedestal and then fully embrace the others on my team in my group and invite them to be part of it. And I get much more cooperation that way, more connection that way, because we're now at the same level. I'm not up here and they're not down there. So that was a huge benefit to be able to look at shadows and continue to look at shadows and how looking at them can help me be a better man. The next concept from Jung that we learned, particularly on the New Warrior weekend, was that of archetypes. Jung taught that we have four main energies in us as men. King energy, lover energy, warrior energy, and magician energy. And those can work in harmony with each other, have a very balanced, fulfilling, engaged life. But sometimes one or more of those archetypical energies can be too weak or too strong. So let's look at lover energy for a moment. Lover energy is about the senses, all five senses being satisfied, and our sexual energy. That's lover energy. Now, it can be too prevalent in our life and we're out of balance. That means I'm looking everywhere to every experience to satisfy the senses and my sexual urges. I can become overindulgent in satisfaction of the senses, overeat, taking alcohol and drugs to an excess. Even overindulging in music, sitting around all day listening to music or watching too many movies, that creates an imbalance. There's nothing wrong with those in the proper amount. So my lover energy can be too strong. I need to pull it back in, get to a middle ground. I can have very weak lover energy, and there I might disengage from the world of the senses and not engage in my sexual appetites. So I'm withdrawing. I'm more like a hermit, or I'm not fulfilling my purpose. So the lover energy is too weak. Knowing that, I can bring it back into balance. And then work with all four of these archetypical energies. So like the the warrior can be very powerful when the warrior is working with the king energy. The king looks over the entire realm. And as the warrior, I'm in service to the king. I'm not in service to myself. I'm serving the greater good. I'm doing my duty. So as men, we can work with all these archetypical energies, bring them into balance, have them support each other. And it's a beautiful gift that we can give ourselves to
Indeed.
fully empower ourselves to use all of these. We're multi-dimensional human beings. We're not one-dimensional. We can be great lovers. We can be great warriors. We can be magicians using our intellect and using our intuition for the betterment of ourselves and for mankind. We can be a king. We can bless this world. We can make sure that everything in our realm, however small or big it is fully operating, and that we're looking after it, and that we're a blessing to the people in our lives. So that's a very powerful teaching about the archetypical energies that we have. And the last thing in the inner world for me is my beliefs. What am I thinking over and over again and adopting as a belief, whether it's good or bad? And of course, if we have what's known as limiting beliefs, these are beliefs that hold us back from getting what we want. They operate sometimes at the conscious level, but sometimes at the subconscious level. Then no matter how hard we try, those beliefs will sabotage us and keep us from getting what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the beliefs that I'm working with right now in my own life, Jed, is the limiting belief that I could either be muscular or lean, but I can't be lean and muscular. And so over the past 2 decades, I've continued to put on some extra weight that's with me now. But I've also been weightlifting with a professional coach because I watched my dad's muscle tone decline to the point where he couldn't walk. He had no muscles in his legs. He got to the point where it was hard to pick up things because his arm strength diminished. And I didn't want that to happen to me. So I decided I'm getting a coach and I'm going to develop my meager muscles into strong muscles. But the belief that I could not also be lean at the same time has kept me putting on extra weight. Now I recognize that that limiting belief is operating, and I'm reversing it. And I'm using a tool, Jed, that I know you think is a fantastic tool, and that tool is EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Yes.
And I know you're going to have some people on this summit talking about that, and so I urge all you men to make sure you watch those presentations about EFT. And so with EFT, have reversed that limiting belief, and I now believe I can be lean and muscular, and the weight is coming off and the muscles are staying on. So it's a very powerful tool. We have limiting beliefs all parts of our life, in all areas of our life. They're very subtle, they're sneaky, they're insidious, they're there. And I urge you to recognize when you're operating with a limiting belief. And sometimes it's not easy to see our own limiting beliefs, and that's where having a coach really helps, because the coach can see when you seem to have adopted a limiting belief that's not allowing you to move forward in your life. So those are a lot of the tools that I got through men's work, through men's initiation, and I cannot say enough about the value to you as a man, whoever's watching this presentation. Get to an initiation weekend.
Good.
So the last category, Jed, is our partners on this planet and our connection with them. That is relationships. This area can be the most powerful because relationships can be a source of joy, or they can be a source of frustration. And it's that a good relationship can give you that love flowing out of you and love coming to you. And that's a really beautiful connecting experience. I have to admit here, Jed, that I'm in my third marriage right now.
Mm,
The first two ended with a lot of sadness and a lot of anger.
mm,
Those were not relationships that gave me the sense of connection that I always wanted. And I can own and say that it was my lack of relationship skills that played a big part in those relationships going south. So after my second divorce, I set out to learn how to have relationship skills. And fortunately for me, and fortunately for all of us men, you can actually learn relationship skills. They're teachable, they're learnable, you can develop them. We're not born with certain skill level and then we have to live our whole life that way. We're born with a skill level and we take it to the next level, to the next level, and to the next level. And as we do that, our ability to connect is much, much stronger and greater.
that's great.
So if you ask me, what are the most powerful relationship skill? The most powerful relationship skill is listening.
Mm,
And it also, listening plays a very important part in us men giving our partners our greatest gift to them, which I believe is our presence.
mm,
And listening and empathically is part of that gift of presence that we can give to women or our partners. And it's not passive. Listening isn't just sitting back and just saying, okay, I'm listening. I'm not talking. I'm listening. No, it's active. It's paying attention. It's clearing your mind of all other extraneous thoughts and not planning your response to the person while they're talking, because that disengages you from listening to what they're saying. You're in your head planning your response. You're not paying attention.
yes.
So listening is an active pursuit. And we listen, we acknowledge what we've heard so they know that we've heard, and at that point we can then think about what we want to say. That is a huge gift,
Good.
and it's wonderful when you learn that. And what's really interesting, Jed, is that they have actually done research with people going through empathic listening, and they've actually found that the brain waves change between the listener and the speaker. I think that's fantastic that you can actually measure what's going on in your brain when you're listening empathically. That's
That's great.
phenomenal.
I know you had said that you've written a book, and I know you had said that you had some special gifts for the people that were watching and listening, and maybe you could tell people about that before we wrap up today.
Sure. I have 50 gifts that I'd like to give to our viewers today. 25 of those gifts are my book, Madly in Love Forever, which I co-authored with my wife, Diane. So that's 25 of the gifts. And the other 25 gifts are the book, Conscious Dating,
Hmm.
by David Steele, who's the founder of the Relationship Coaching Institute. That's where I did my relationship coaching certification. The first book, my book, Madly in Love Forever, is great for a man if you're already in a relationship. The second one is great for men who want to find the love of your life. Email me at lewisdenbaum108@gmail.com. Express your preference for one book or the other, and the first 25 people who want my book will get it, and the
Mm.
first 25 that want Conscious Dating will get it.
That's
So
great. A wonderful gift.
it's my pleasure. And for
Oh,
you men out there, I really hope, we as men are not showing up in the world as best as we can. 60% of the people in college right now are women. Where are we, men? One third of the families in this world in this country are being, fathers are not present. Where are we? Let's step up. Let's get in the game. Let's be the best men we can for ourselves, for our health and our well-being, and also to make the biggest contribution we can make to our world and our planet.
Ah,
So
that's great. Thank you so much, Louis. This was really helpful, really useful, and your gifts are great, and I hope people take advantage of them. So thanks so much for being with us today, and thank you for being part of this unique Grand Round webinar, Louis.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you for including me. Blessed day to you and all the viewers.